Hello and welcome to this week's writing Q&A video. My name is KM Weiland and I run the writing website helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. And this week's question is from Joe Valdez, who asks, my question, how many drafts do you typically write? Do you have a process or does it vary from book to book? I consider a draft starting with a blank page. So first of all, I will just say that obviously, in answer to this question, what I'm going to be talking about in this video is my process. I think it's super valuable to hear about other writers' processes and to learn from them, but there is no one right process for writing a book. And really, it's a very personal decision and evolution, really, of a practice that has to do really with just what works for you, what unleashes your creativity, what helps you most with this very personal process that is writing a book. My own personal process is very much about planning up front. I'm an INTJ, a planner, however you want to identify that. But I'm somebody who likes to plan as much as possible ahead of time so that once I actually have to do whatever the thing is, write the first draft, that it goes pretty smoothly and I can get through it without having to rewrite or have to do second drafts. So the short answer to this question is that almost always, and on every book that I've ever published that's been of publishing quality, I've only ever done one draft, not counting the outline. There have been books where I've started over and tried to work with second drafts, but they didn't work, so I don't really count that. But my process, which I've honed over the years in many published books, works really well for me, and I think it's a very good process for anyone who is like me, someone who likes to plan and kind of land more on the outlining side of the spectrum. Now, I will say that over the years, even though I do heavily identify as an outliner, I don't actually think that people are one or the other, an outliner or a discovery writer or whatever you want to call that. That really we all do all of it. It just depends on A, what we enjoy the most, and B, where we place it within our process and how much emphasis we put on it. But sooner or later, we're all in a discovery phase and we are all, planning, even if it's just, say in the rewrite phase or in a second draft. At that point, having, more understanding where the story is going, you can sort of view the earlier drafts as outlines of a sort. So I think that's a helpful way to look at it, just because it does bring in the fact that we use all parts of the process, no matter what our own proclivities may be. My personal process is, like I say, very outline heavy, very planning heavy, because that's my favorite part of the process. And for me, outlining is really more brainstorming. It's my discovery phase, and it's a time when I prefer to write longhand in a notebook. This is the outline I'm working on right now, and my very horrible handwriting. This is my second notebook for that outline. It's usually a pretty lengthy process for me, and I just kind of ramble through it, looking for plot holes, exploring my characters, really asking all the questions about theme and plot and story structure and character arc that are going to help me create a cohesive whole out of that. And I have written extensively about this. I have all kinds of resources about this on my website. I have a lengthy comprehensive series about this, which I will link up in the corner and down below in the description as well. I also have a book, Outlining Your Novel, and it has an accompanying Outlining Your Novel workbook. I also have a software version of the workbook so that you can do it on your computer if you want, and I will link to that down below, along with a video that has a program tour. So lots of resources if you're interested in the nitty-gritty of how I do this. Because like I say, this is really my jam. This is my favorite part of writing. And I just love it. But after that, after I feel like I've outlined the story, I understand where I'm going with it, it all makes sense, and it checks all those story boxes that I want it to. And I have a sense that I really know where I'm going with it, and I don't have any more kind of questions in my own mind of not sure what's going to happen there, or I feel sort of just lost, kind of. I want to get past all of that in the outlining phase when there isn't any pressure, when it's just me talking to myself on the notebook page before I have to get into the first draft and, really focus on all the nitty gritty of style and technique, of getting my prose right, and of creating something, that's going to bring the story to life in a way that readers will enjoy versus just me playing in my own imagination. Because to me, those are two separate skills. So, you have storytelling, which is, very much just, playing in your story world. It's outlining. It doesn't have to be or look a certain way. And then you have writing, which is this other very specific skill set of bringing that story to life through your prose and through all of these very specific techniques. To me, outlining and storytelling are very much a right brain skill, but writing is a left brain skill. So I like to separate them so that my brain isn't quite isn't disorganized, because it likes to get that way. So I find that also a helpful distinction in like just being really right-brained in the outlining phase. So then I can, kind of move more over into the more technical aspects when I'm ready to start writing that first draft. So when I do start writing the first draft, I will move over to the computer. I like to write in Scrivener. And usually it's a pretty straightforward process because I have tried to be as thorough as possible in my outline. So I have scene outlines. I know I've answered pretty much all the questions that I might have to stop and think about in the first draft. So I can just go. I can just, let myself loose and just write the story and trust that it's going to turn out well because I've already tried to answer all of the plot and theme and character arc questions earlier on. Now, inevitably, things don't turn out perfectly, but they turn out pretty close, so that I generally, if things work well, I only have to do that one draft. Obviously, I will edit it thoroughly. It will run through beta readers, critique partners, editors, before it would reach publication. So there can be, changes, but very rarely are there substantial changes to character arc or plot because of the extensive planning that I do up front. So that is simply my process. And again, you can read about that in much more depth and along with lots of tricks and tidbits that I've learned along the way if you want to check out the resources down below. Anyway, I hope that's helpful, and I hope you will join me again next week. If you have a question, be sure to leave it in the comments, and I will answer one next week. And I hope you will stop by my website at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com, where I go in depth on all of this stuff in a weekly post and podcast on Mondays. See you later.